From far and wide, Oilers fans, this is Dolynny TV. And welcome back to another Edmonton Oilers discussion today after a big 4-1 victory over top of the Minnesota Wild. Like I said, it all comes down to beating Minnesota, staying ahead of them, staying ahead of the curve, and battling for a wild card spot down the stretch. But of course, you can't ignore that down the stretch, we got to look at one possibility of proportion, and that's the trade deadline. Who knows what's going to happen? However, I know for certain, no matter what happens with this Oilers team in the next, well, rest of the month, right? Run to the trade deadline. What ends up happening with this defense is pivotal. Because essentially, you want to talk about clearing cap. There's two very easy ways to clear cap to activate Andrej Sekera. The plan A being trade Talbot, although you get a performance out of him like last night. Maybe you hang on to him. I'm not sure. Like we said, we don't know what's going on with Talbot. We've thought he should have been traded a million times over this season. And who really knows what the plan is, especially without a full actual general manager? Is the team too scared to make a trade? What is happening? However, when it comes to activating Andrej Sekera in a couple days' time here, you got to look at one very strong possibility is the fact that we will become sellers of bottom pairing defensemen, right? And simply look at 3 to 4 names in that contention. You've got, obviously you have to clear 2 of them because essentially right now you've got the 9 defensemen battling for 7 spots. You've got Klefbom, Nurse, Russell, Larson. You've got guys like Petrovic, Manning, Benning, and Gravel. Sekera in there as well for the 9th. So you've got a total of 9 defensemen fighting for 7 spots with a cap crunch coming up. The easy thing, as I've already seen suggested, is to waive the defensemen like Petrovic and Manning, clear enough cap because you've got Spooner in the minors now that would do enough to get Mr. Andrej Sekera onto the team. However, I don't buy that. I don't buy that that's the exact same solution we'd want. Why would you waive 2 guys you spent trading guys for just to get nothing in return, right? Obviously, that was the anger with the Ryan Spooner deal and sending him to the minors. So why would you risk doing that again, this time post Peter Chiarelli, just to try and undo Peter Chiarelli a little bit? No. I don't buy it. These guys are still worth something, right? Brandon Manning, Alex Petrovic, they are NHL caliber defensemen. Sure, they're bottom pair, 7th defenseman, whatever you want to classify them as, but they are NHL caliber guys. They have played a lot of games in the NHL prior to coming to Edmonton. They've played a couple already as Oilers. Why you would give those guys away for free just in an effort to clear cap without even looking at selling them off? And I'm talking, you could sell Benning as well. And yes, sure, you're going to have to sell off 1 or 2 of these guys right here, right now, or in the next few days, in my opinion. Okay, fine dealio. But down the road, you can look at a Benning or Gravel at the trade deadline. If someone's looking for a piece, hey, goodbye, get out of town. We can get that extra piece we are looking for in the trade back. Good, right? Just keep clearing a little bit of cap. Maybe you have to work around another $2 million or something. And Matt Benning would be the kind of guy to do that. Kevin Gravel, not exactly. But if somebody's asking for Kevin Gravel, well, why not, right? So a look at the guys that we're talking about here. For Matt Benning, I crap on him a lot. Oilers fans crap on him a lot, but he's actually putting up a decent little season here. 46 games played, 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points, and a +8. That's not as bad as his play would suggest, obviously, but for a guy that's a bottom pairing defenseman, we don't really use him on the power play, especially now that Nurse has emerged and especially that Klefbom has emerged. Really, you're not going to see him out there as much as you did in the portions where maybe you sent out him on the second unit when Nurse or when Klefbom was down with the injury. So maybe a guy who loses his spot a little bit and his defense doesn't allow him to make up for it, maybe. But you look at guys like Kevin Gravel, who's played 31 games, 3 assists. He's a steady Eddie defenseman back there. He does the things right that teams like done. A guy that has some value, but not enough cap to clear. So you look at the 2 guys we acquired for hefty price, right? Chris Weidman, 3rd round pick for Petrovic, and then you've got Garrison and Kajula, like, right? Some pretty good prices paid for these guys. Brandon Manning, a guy that's an even 0 1 goal, 11 games played. He's not a flashy defenseman. He's never going to be a flashy defenseman, but a guy that has stepped in there and done the job defensively for us when we need him to. And he's on there for plus goals also because he's been out there for goals against, and somehow he's got 0 rating, so you can't pretend in 11 games he's just that bad, right? But that's just judging plus minus. I know there's a lot more to it than just plus minus, but that's what I'm getting at right there. And then Alex Petrovic, this is the one where if you are really going to clear yourself of anyone, Petrovic is the first step. A -7 in 6 games, only 1 assist, a guy who hasn't found his way into the lineup, had some injury problems with that concussion. You got to look at him as being a guy to A, get rid of, and a B, get rid of right away. Because Petrovic is your first move, then maybe you package him. I don't know. Is there really a team out there looking for 2 bottom pair defensemen for a playoff run? If they were, the Oilers would keep them. However, the crunch is what it is. Now, the problem is, guys, what I said on Twitter today is maybe we're looking at this all wrong. That whole perspective I just showed you, maybe it's all wrong. Maybe the reason Sekera's doing the conditioning stint in the AHL, right? He's been practicing with the Oilers as long as possible. And realistically, you look at it, the Oilers love throwing guys into the fire. Why waste the time sending them to the AHL? Now, you add on that Keith Gretzky is going to watch him this weekend, Friday, Saturday. Now you add a whole new element that a lot of guys on Twitter missed when Jim Matheson tweeted it out. Because it's simple as this. You look at a guy who hasn't played in a while, and you're getting your general manager of your professional NHL club to look at him. Why would you do that? It's a waste of time. Doesn't make sense. Why waste the air miles to get down there? Well, hold on. Now, when you start kicking tires on trading guys to activate them, maybe you start thinking, maybe it isn't a matter of activating Sekera to play. Maybe it's a matter of trading him, right? Now you have a general manager from the Eastern Conference calling Keith Gretzky and saying, hey, you know, like, I know it's tough and you're in a bad spot and you're worried about activating Sekera, but hey, what's your honest opinion of him? Is he worth maybe us kicking a little bit of tires back and forth and trading for him instead of you worrying about cap crunching? And that's a possibility right there. Because Keith Gretzky would know. 100% anyone can ask him any question about Sekera as long as he gets the playing time in Bakersfield this weekend, doesn't have an injury mishap, well, all of a sudden he's got the scouting report himself in the stands 2 nights on back-to-back nights for Andrej Sekera. Does that not make sense in leveraging a trade for Sekera? I strongly think it does. I know there's no movement, no trade clause attached to Sekera. There's some stuff to be worked out there, fine and dandy. But you think about moving away that Sekera, it doesn't solve your cap crunch, doesn't solve your defense really, but think about it. That's one less thing. And if you can get a 3rd round pick for Sekera and clear that contract, not have to worry about it in the offseason, and then suddenly start moving pieces around like Petrovic and Manning at the deadline instead of right now, all of a sudden you're selling a little bit more effectively. And that's what I mean. The Oilers are going to be sellers at the deadline and right now, the rest of the month, no matter what. But they're sellers of defense, not necessarily sellers in general, just selling defensive pieces and potentially maybe getting a forward in return for a couple of those. You just don't know. Colby Cave, a guy I don't think is sold on being a full-time Oiler the rest of the year. I think he's another bargaining chip. Anyone in the bottom 6 is really a bargaining chip for me, especially in the defensive bottom 6 as well, right? You talk about Clefbaum, Larson, Nurse pretty much being untouchable. I know as much as I'd like to talk about Larson being maybe movable, it just isn't quite there. But for a guy like Russell, probably pretty safe as well. And then you got the rest of the guys not as safe as they would like to be. Sekera, obviously, like I said, no movement, no trade clause, probably safer than I'm making him sound to be, but you wouldn't have Keith Gretzky scouting him if that weren't the case, obviously. At worst, it's a report to head coach Ken Hitchcock saying, here's what we're going to get out of Sekera when we add him. That's at worst. At best, it's a trade increasing of the value because you have that bargaining chip to say, hey, hold on. No, you think Andrej Sekera is washed. You should have seen him in Bakersfield. Here's the tape. This is what we saw. And if you don't want it, we will be glad to use it in our lineup the rest of the way for the playoff run. Right? I know, okay, now you guys are going to lose it because I'm talking about the playoff run, but calm down. We're 2 points out of a playoff spot as it currently stands right now. Shoot me if you want, but hey, we're in a good spot to make a run. So guys, that's essentially my kind of theory on that. I'm not sure if it's correct, but to be sellers of defense, not necessarily sellers at the deadline completely, but sellers of defense makes 100% sense to me for the Oilers. Anyways, guys, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. I will catch you in the next one.